A tie in the Senate, a battle in the House. Trump's big, beautiful budget bill just scraped through. Now it's headed for a floor fight that could go either way. Plus, Trump sues CBS and wins. Paramount agrees to pay millions over a 60 Minutes edit. This morning, where accountability ends and political pressure begins. And 4 verdicts down, 1 to go. The jury is stuck on the charge that could send Diddy to prison for life. What happens next and why this one count matters most. The stories that matter, clear and credible, from across the country to around the world. These are your unbiased updates from Straight Arrow News. Good morning, I'm Craig Negrelli. This morning, President Donald Trump's so-called big, beautiful budget bill is back in the House after just barely clearing the Senate with a 50-50 tie broken by Vice President J.D. Vance. All Democrats and 3 Republicans voted against the bill. Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Rand Paul of Kentucky, and Susan Collins of Maine. Overnight, the House Rules Committee voted 7-6 to move the bill to the House floor, with 2 Republicans, Ralph Norman and Chip Roy, siding with Democrats to try to block it. The full House takes up debate this morning, but passage is not a sure thing. The Senate version would add $1 trillion more to the deficit than the bill originally passed by the House, and that could slow things down. The Congressional Budget Office estimates the current bill would add $3.3 trillion to the deficit over the next decade. President Trump says he wants it on his desk by Friday. House Democrats, led by Hakeem Jeffries, are promising a fight. He said all legislative tools are on the table, including the rare magic minute rule, which allows leaders to speak for as long as they want after debate ends. And with a slim majority, Republicans can only afford to lose 3 votes.
We knew the Senate would amend the House product. I encouraged them to amend it as lightly as possible. They went a little further than many of us would have preferred. But we have the product now. As the president said, it's his bill. It's not a House bill, it's not a Senate bill, it's the American people's bill. And my objective and my responsibility is to get that bill over the line. So we will do everything possible to do that.
Speaker Mike Johnson said Tuesday that travel delays from storms in the eastern United States and more than 1,200 canceled flights could make it hard for some members to get back to Washington, D.C. in time. This morning, a fresh ceasefire deal is on the table in Gaza, and President Trump says Israel is on board. The agreement would mark a major shift in the war after Israel broke the last truce with a series of deadly airstrikes back in March. In a post on Truth Social, the president said Israel has accepted the necessary conditions for a 60-day ceasefire and warned Hamas to do the same, saying the situation will only get worse if they do not. Trump said Egypt and Qatar, which have been working with the United States to broker a deal, will deliver the final terms to Hamas. The announcement comes just ahead of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the U.S. on Monday. Meanwhile, Al Jazeera reports more than 30 Palestinians were killed in Israeli strikes across Gaza today, even as ceasefire conditions were being finalized. Hamas still holds about 50 Israeli hostages from its initial attack. At least 27 are believed dead. This morning, Paramount is cutting a $16 million check to President Trump, settling his lawsuit over an edited 60 Minutes interview with then Vice President Kamala Harris. The money, minus legal fees, goes to Trump's future presidential library. No apology in the deal, but as part of the settlement, 60 Minutes will now release transcripts of future interviews with presidential candidates. Paramount is in the middle of a proposed merger with Skydance Media, a deal that needs the Trump administration's approval. Inside CBS, the fallout has already begun, with high-level resignations and growing frustration from journalists who see this as caving to political pressure. Critics warn it sets a troubling precedent. The Trump team says it's about accountability. So far, no reaction from the White House. This morning, the jury in the federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs is heading into day 3 of deliberations, still deadlocked on the most serious charge, racketeering conspiracy. Jurors say they've reached a verdict on 4 of the 5 charges, including 2 counts of sex trafficking and 2 counts of transporting women across state lines for prostitution, but cannot agree on whether Combs ran a criminal enterprise. The judge told jurors to keep going. They'll be back at it this morning in Lower Manhattan. Combs, who has pleaded not guilty, appeared emotional in court Tuesday with his head down and hands folded as the note was read. A conviction on the racketeering charge could mean life in prison. The verdicts on the other 4 counts will not be revealed until jurors reach a decision on that final charge. A major reversal this morning in a case that became a national flashpoint in the debate over transgender athletes in women's competition. The University of Pennsylvania has agreed to ban transgender women from joining female teams, complying with a federal ruling that found the school violated Title IX when it allowed swimmer Leah Thomas to compete on the women's team in 2021 and 2022. Thomas, a transgender woman who previously swam on the men's team, went on to win a national title, sparking national debate and sharp backlash. Now, under the agreement, Penn will remove her name from the record books and adopt new policies defining sex based on biology. The move follows a Trump administration order threatening to cut federal funding to schools that allow transgender women to compete in female sports. Finally this morning, ever dreamed of living like Mike? Well, now you actually can. Michael Jordan's iconic Chicago area mansion is now on Airbnb. Look at, there's his number 23. And yes, it's exactly as over the top as you would imagine. The 56,000 square foot estate, get this, features 7 bedrooms, 17 and a half bathrooms, a movie theater, private gym, cigar lounge, wine cellar, bars, billiards, saltwater aquariums, and of course, a full-size basketball court. So what's the damage? The host requires a 7-night minimum. And NBC News crunched the numbers. A stay over Labor Day weekend just shy of $121,000. That's like the price of a house. But hey, the place sleeps 12, so if you can get your starting lineup and bench to chip in, you're looking at 10 grand apiece to live like a legend. And they used to say, be like Mike. By the way, I interviewed Michael Jordan back in the early 1990s. I was a sports intern at WGRZ-TV in Buffalo, New York, and he was in town to play an exhibition basketball game for the Chicago Bulls. It's memorable because he was polite, he was patient, he was kind, and more than 30 years later, I'll never forget it. Thank you, Michael Jordan. Those are your Unbiased Updates for this Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.